support for Success Express, your business, career, and financial radio magazine. Hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio Success Express Business and Career Show with Nancy and Lisa, the mother-daughter travel team and publishers of Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine, as well as Parks and Travel Magazine. We're very excited today. We're welcoming back leading trust expert Lea Brovedani. She's one of our Big Blend experts, and we love having her join us on shows to talk about trust. In fact, she's known as the Trust Architect, and today she's going to talk about the 5 tenets of trust. It's a main focus in her latest book, which is called Trust Me, Restore Belief and Confidence in an Uncertain World. Definitely, everyone's a good time to get it. Trust me on that. Check it out. You can go to her website, leabrovedani.com, and I'm going to spell that out. It's Lea and then Brovedani, leabrovedani.com. Of course, get on Amazon, all those great places. But welcome back, Lea. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's so nice to, and Nancy, you're feeling good. The last time I think you were under the weather, so it's nice to have both of you on the radio show today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, things happen in the winter.
Yeah.
I know. This has been a weird we can't trust the weather. How about that?
No.
I've learned something. This is astounding. Don't go outside barefoot when it's cold.
Yeah, Nancy. So, Lea, before we get into our conversation, I want to give a shout out and congrats because, we've talked on the shows before that you're named a top thought leader on trust in 2017, 2018, 2019. And this is through the organization Trust Across America. But I just heard that you were also named, top thought leader on trust for 2020. So congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I love the organization. They actually walk their talk, and Barbara Brooks Kimmel is a terrific lady, and really checks out everybody who wants to be a top thought leader, and you have to go through kind of a rigorous vetting before you get there. So I'm really pleased. I'm a top thought leader again.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Awesome. Now, everybody, Lea's book, Trust Me, does have a whole chapter on this, but really when you read her book, you'll see that the 5 tenets of trust kind of go right through it. And she also has an article. You'll be able to read it in the spring issue of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, also up on blendradioandtv.com. But Lea's, this is interesting when you talk about trust across America. Lea sent us on a challenge to document trust stories across America as Nancy and I travel, going on our Love Your Parks tour, where we're documenting parks and communities, sharing the stories of communities, and we've started a trust map. So we're actually going to map trust across America. And there's going to be stories. We've started with Juan Bautista de Anza, who led an expedition from Mexico through the Spanish. He was hired by the Spanish Viceroy to actually claim San Francisco as, part of New Spain. And they did. And so they walked from Mexico all the way to San Francisco through the desert under his leadership, over 200 people, actual families. So that was our first story of trust. And I think, there's going to be a ton, as I'm going through footage and we're creating our photo journal for 2019, Lea, I'm seeing that there's actually a lot more trust than what we would think in the country and the foundation of it. But I know there's going to be naughty stories in there. We're going to find, in history, leaders that probably should have called on you if they knew you, or you were in the same times era. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to kind of think when you delve into people's lives historically, trust can be learned, right? You can change.
Oh, absolutely. Things. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We see it playing out all the time that a lot of times people will do what is expected of them. And so when you put expectations that they will behave in a trustworthy manner, then you actually encourage that behavior. But if all, if what is it, all, what's the saying, all things are off?
Oh, yeah.
then we can sometimes experience behavior that you go, well, and I've heard this, people say, you know, it's okay because now we're just seeing people's true colors. And I don't really agree with that. I think that we all have the capacity for good and evil. And if it's okay to be bad and evil, then sometimes you will do that because, you know, it sometimes is easier. So when we have that expectation that people behave in a way that has integrity and then we get better behavior. I hope we come back to a place where we can expect more of people.
I think that's the expectation. Yeah, it's, you know, Nancy has expectations of me. So like, it's kind of that, you know what I mean? You know that, you know, you like, she's, you know, as a child growing up, there's these expectations. And I remember when I first worked for her, well, I've been working with her and for her for like majority of my life in some capacity. You know, just a young child, like, you want something, well, go clean the house and I'll give you pocket money and you're going to be able to, she taught me budgeting and all that stuff and to get off my butt and do stuff, which is great. And, you know, when I came out of high school and I started working for a magazine in South Africa, you know, she taught me, you be on time, and on time means 15 minutes early. And I've had that. I'm a Virgo, so I'm really one of those analytically organized, scheduling kind of crazy people. And I remember being a few minutes late, and next thing you know, she marches into my room, and the hose gets turned on you because, you know,
oh my gosh,
this is you're gonna wake up. You know what I mean? And well, she knew. I mean, I was young and I was out partying the night before, but I thought I could just, you know, kind of slough it off because I've done such a good job, and you really can't. So the expectation was, you're not going to let me down. And especially when, you know, I'm the daughter working in an office full of people that go, oh, you know, mommy's girl, you know what I mean? So I had to really rise above all of that.
Well,
and so
you made a commitment. You promised me when I hired you, you promised to be on time. And that was your first commitment. That was the first question. If I hire you, you will be on time. And
you know what? It's one of the commitments. Commitment is one of my 5 tenets.
Yep.
And so you keep your word no matter what. And if you can't, then you ask to be released from the obligation.
Yeah.
But you don't just mess up and then ask to be released after.
You don't sleep in. That doesn't happen.
Well, also, do you think people make commitments? You know, that's also a power of no. I think especially for women, especially, you know, in the professional life and personal lives, even I've had to learn, like, you know what, I really can't go to coffee because I really have this over here. And if I try to do two, no one's going to be happy with me. And I'd rather just learn the power of no. And in business, women take on a lot. And I feel like that is something that if you're going to make a commitment to something, you better know you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's okay to say, you know, I have a good friend who is just trying to pull herself out of a business that's a little bit messy. And part of it is the person who runs the organization makes commitments on other people's behalf and then expects them to keep those commitments.
Oopsie.
And so when that happens, and I've been saying to her, it's okay if you say, yes, you made that commitment for me without checking with me, and no, I can't keep it. And I know that makes it awkward for you. Blah, you know, deal with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is something when you think about it. There's, you know, it's good to talk about trust, but there's something there. You gotta trust yourself to do the right thing at the right time. You can't just sit back and I trust everything will just be okay. You know, you can't just do that. You have to take the steps forward. You know, it's like when the law of attraction came out, it was, the law of attraction, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you can't just go, the law of attraction will work and I don't have to do anything. I can sit and watch TV and have popcorn. That is not how it works.
No, it's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
in your book, you talk about your friend who's a set decorator for the film industry. And you talk about her, Janice, and you talk about, you know, what she went through to be successful. and
Oh,
how she
yeah.
ended up with the big break, but the big break would never happen without her commitment. And you go and you talk about her commitment as on the personal level with her family, her husband, personal level. But when we talk about trust and commitment, integrity is always a big word with this too. How much of everything when it comes to trust boils down to self-trust? Because you talk about that in the chapter, especially self-trust, I think is key, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, if you can't trust yourself, how can you trust that your opinion of somebody else is true? I mean, it all comes down to self-trust. So if I'm going to trust you, then at the heart of that is that I believe my whole opinion and how I've judged you is accurate.
Mm.
So, you know, it really does. You have to be able to trust your own judgment, and you have to be able to trust that you have the wherewithal to make things happen. You know, like putting, I see people who are constant victims, and I think, wow, you know, like I'd rather take credit for everything. Even that way, I feel like I'm in control. Being in a constant victim mode means that I've given all my power away, and I don't trust that I have control over what's happening in my life.
Oh, that's not cool.
Well, but I don't know. Sometimes I divide it up into, are you lazy or are you not? Because sometimes I think being lazy is the part of, I'm just, you know, I'll just let everything roll along and trust that it's going to be good for me. And then when it isn't, you go into shock because you know, it's like, well, oh my gosh, if I have to change things to make things better for myself, that means I have to trust myself to not be lazy and to make changes. And people hate to make changes. Boy, do they make changes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and sometimes I'd much rather just, you know, like say, well, it's not my fault. I have no control, and just go back to bed, pull the covers over my head.
You can do that with the weather. Like you can do that with the weather. But we do have a role in that too. I mean, you look at, you know, what's happening in climate change. So in a way, we got to think about that too. So we really do play a hand in everything. When you talk about self-trust and you know, have that judgment and opinion, then that really gets down to the fact that we have to be 100% honest with ourselves and know like where you can't trust yourself. Like, you know, when you're going to be a naughty girl or something, like, you know, if someone gives, not you specifically, but I know if someone gives me a whole bottle of wine, there's no way I'm not going to sit there and finish that bottle of wine with Nancy. There's no leaving the bottle halfway for the next day. It's not happening. It's the same thing as you give me a chocolate cake. The chances are, you know, that I don't know if I could
eat it.
There, you know, I'll probably share it with everyone, but you're going to eye that chocolate cake. So everybody has their part of having to know where you cannot trust yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I'm kind of laughing because I just made a batch of shortbread Toblerone cookies and finally had to take them. Like I went and gave them away to our neighbors on the street because I know that if they sit here, I can't trust myself to just say, oh yeah, I'll just ignore them because they start talking to me.
Yeah.
It's interesting about, you know, like this is a personal thing, like where you can trust yourself and where you know, okay, this can be a challenge for me. Like I have this thing about animals. I want to know exactly what they're thinking. And I have learned over time, don't get that close to wild animals, but I will still try. And I have learned, you're like, okay, that was too close, run. But, you know, so there's just whatever strikes you as this thing that is calls to you. Like, you know, it calls to you. So there's that side of it. This is calling you, whether it's cookies or let me go see if I can get closer to that moose or whatever it is. Somewhere your brain has to kick in and your values have to kick in and remind you, okay, you really can't get that close. And then there's the other side that goes, oh, you could just have a little bit more, or oh, you can get a little bit closer. And somewhere in between is that few seconds of making a decision. Will I or won't I? I think it's interesting. You know, how many times are you going to get chased by like a wild animal? How many times are you going to eat a whole bag of cookies on your own? Where does it fall? Where, you know, to trust yourself to, okay, I've been here, done this before, learned something from the last time, and maybe I won't go that close.
But it's more probably, I would say that I could trust that both of you would have more opportunity to be chased by wild animals than most of us.
Oh, I look for it.
while drinking wine and eating chocolate cake.
Exactly. And then, you know, maybe that's when you combine this emotional intelligence and cognitive intelligence and say, okay, you know, my emotions are a little dulled by that full bottle of wine, so maybe I've got to trust somebody else to give me some cues.
Well, see, but even that's a level of taking care of yourself, knowing, so you can trust, you know, okay, if I don't move these cookies away, then here comes that you know, that naughty temptation. But if you know, okay, I can make the cookies and give this part all away and know you're making people happy over here, and caring, that's another one of your tenets of trust. I'm making some people happy, I'm caring for them, and I'm caring for myself, because you can't care for others if you don't care for yourself. So you're caring for yourself. So in a way, you really are still trusting yourself by taking action.
So for everybody who's listening, you know, if it's okay, I'll just name the 5 tenets of trust.
And I think that's important.
The tenet is a theory or a belief. So they're main principles which something is based on. So that's why I call it a tenet, because my trust model is based on these 5 tenets. And the first one is caring. And the caring can show up in how you treat people with respect. And you use mistakes as learning opportunities and not as weapons, so that you are actually caring for the person. And commitment, we talked about, you keep your word no matter what, otherwise you're going to get the cold water hose in the morning to get you out of bed. Consistency is your words and your deeds match. And it also means that if you've got a level of work, you can see that the work is consistent from one day to the next. And when I've worked with people in organizations, I've said that a lot of times when you see a problem with consistency, that a person's work is not consistent from day to day, then you start getting curious and look for areas, is there an addictions problem? So consistency can sometimes show up in that particular area. And then you look at competence. So can the person actually do what they say they're doing? It's like the person who says, you know, of course, I love to sing, I've got a beautiful voice. And then you hear them and you go, not competent there. And then the final one is the communication. And you have like real conversations, not phony. You know, when you've talked to somebody and you just, they seem like they're saying all the right thing, but there's nothing that feels sincere. So communication is part of my trust model, is that there are these real conversations that at whatever level. I mean, you're not going to have these deep conversations when you've just met somebody, but you should be able to tell that the person is honest and transparent, and they're not phony. So,
and
so
actually listening.
5 working together.
And the listening is part of that.
Absolutely. A lot of times communication, the listening is more important than the talking, because if you're listening deeply, then you understand where that conversation should go.
And also by listening, then you know if you can trust the other person or not. Well, you know what I mean? It's like if people do tell you who they are, and it's up to us to listen to find out. Listen, even if it's the body language, you know, the words, people will tell you who they are. You know, I like chocolate cake and wine, and I will be naughty with both of them. You know, so you know that, you know, so that, but at the same time, I know that I can give you the cake and you'll give it to your neighbors after you take one bite. But that's a trust thing. I think it's important. Communication to me is so key to everything. And a lot of times it just gets on the wayside. We're in such a busy climate and technology, and even how people text and message each other can be so misunderstood, and there's no time put into it. You know what I mean? Like, you can send a text message to someone. I know we've talked about this before too, but you can send a text message to someone, use a bunch of exclamation marks, not meaning anything, and the other person thinks you're yelling at them. So I think this communication thing is so key of today, while we're in the world of communication, that we actually communicate properly and nicely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes really difficult because I've been at a dinner party and watched, and most of the people, instead of having these communications face to face and across the table, are texting on their machines, on their phones.
So rude. I'm sorry, but it's so rude.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's rude.
Well, I've seen people on
the
dates.
way I was brought up, my little British granny was only 4'9". She would die over something like that. That to her would be like the biggest. Oh my gosh, that's the end of that dinner party. You just don't do things like that. I mean, that is, if you went back 100 years or so, that would be almost it would be a signal of you are not important and I am. That's how it would be picked up. Because we had such strict manners. If you go back 100 and 200 years, and even further, if you're, British, that, the laws of what was, or the expectations people had of how your behavior in certain arenas, we've just broken all of them now because we have phones. And it's really, if you think back to, I guess, even colonial times, they had more manners in a way.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, with your traveling, and you probably see this, I think that the destination spots, before it was, if I go on a holiday or if I go on a trip, I want to make sure that I can be connected. Mm-hmm. And so you always wanted to stay connected. And now when my husband and I are looking for a really great holiday, we're looking for places where we can disconnect. And I think we'll see more of that. One of the best holidays we went on was, I think it was an 18-day trip on the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. Awesome. And part of the reason it was so good is that nothing worked. So you could not get a signal, which was beautiful, because we were forced to act, like when you sat around the campfire at night, you talked to people. Mm-hmm. And it was just so peaceful and relaxing, and you got to know people, and the relationships that were formed because of that were much deeper.
See, now you talk about relationships, you're forming that when you're on that kind of experience, you're rafting down the river, communication becomes key out of safety. But also in developing those relationships, you do actually have to care for whether you like that person or not, because I know those kind of experiences where you're all together and there's going to be somebody you just don't like them, and it could be
it's true.
And maybe it's their smell. It's just they look like an ex. I don't know
just
what
the vibe. It's just a vibe.
It could be, and one lady we know, she always says, no, actually, they're going to look like someone who did something in the past, and you're like, and they're probably not that person. Well, you never know. But you're on that thing and you're like, okay, I don't like that person, but you know that you're on this journey together. You're going to have to get through it. You're going to have to smile and be polite and nice. But you're going to have to, like, if their raft goes through something or they capsize, you still have to care.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody has to trust that the best interests of the individual and of the group is first and foremost for, the safety of the whole group. You want everyone to that if you fell off, someone's going to reach their hand down and pull you back into the raft, just like you would do for another.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I've had that happen. Derek
Mm-hmm.
pulled me out of the water after the little waterfall.
Yeah, that's you were lucky.
I
But
was lucky.
what about competence? Because that's something when you look in a work situation in a team, what if the competence part, everybody's got these different personalities, everybody works in different ways, and that's where competence can sometimes be like, maybe they are good at it, but they rush in with it, a project at this time, but the other person's going to do it early. You know what I mean? Everybody works differently on projects, and
that's when communication is key.
Okay.
Because when you have people who are competent, they can't just have the competence, they have to show it in action. So it has to be demonstratable. So if I have this wonderful competence of being able to, make a widget, but I never actually show anyone or use that skill, is it really a competence? So it has to be shown as well. It has to be something that you can share with people. Out of the 5 of them too, and there's some statistics that are starting to come forward that out of my 5, caring is the one that seems to have the most impact on how much we trust somebody. So if someone's not consistent all the time, but we know that they care deeply for us and they care deeply for whatever they're doing, we'll kind of, if they're not as competent as they should be, we'll still trust them more than and if you think of just that quadrant, if you ever worked for somebody and they are super, super skilled and they are just brilliant at it.
Yeah.
But they don't care for anybody, and it's all about, let me show you how brilliant I am with this.
Oh,
there's a word,
gross.
there's a term that we call for, that a name we call them. It usually starts with A and ends with holes. So
yes, we have sound effects for that, but I'll behave. Well, but yeah, because you're looking at a project getting done and someone is the best at it, but if they're being non-caring and just like, I'm just going to take it over, or I'm going to just do it myself, you guys don't know anything, that doesn't work either.
Yeah. So it's that person who cares deeply about every member of the team, and it's authentic and real. And we will give them a bit more of a leeway than we will the brilliant person who might be, competent. Yes, you want some of those people on the team, but you also don't want them to destroy the team and break up all of the trust and destroy the trust because of how they treat others.
It's really true. When you look at, a business, especially like the owner or the manager, the director, whatever your title is going to be up, you're the uppity muckety muck at the top there.
Yeah.
And could be really good at numbers, all of that. But I've seen it. Nancy and I, we get into the back doors of businesses all the time because of what we do in filming. Now no one's going to want us to go film them, but we see how staff are treated, and where you can see the staff quietly roll their eyes, look at each other, they are communicating with each other. They've created their trust system. It's almost like an abusive relationship where here's the muckety muck at the top being rude to the staff. And I've even heard, the muckety muck at the top be rude to the staff in front of customers. Now everybody's on this rocky boat, and maybe they care about the business or the nonprofit or whatever it is, but if that one person is at the top and being rude to everybody, you're going to go down at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that affects trust too. And I've seen it in organizations where you have a really high producing member, but they know how to manage upward. They know how to manage upwards, but they treat the people who work for them like crap, but they know what to say to the bosses who are above them. And so they're kept in the company because they're perceived as being their high productivity. And what companies don't realize, and the people at the top don't realize, is yes, they might pull in a certain amount of income, but it's at a cost for all of the people down below. And eventually there's a cost for that. So caring has to go both ways. It has to be, you care about the company and you care about the people.
Yeah, because the foundation eventually will crack. And when the foundation goes, it's a house of cards at that point.
Yeah.
And caring, to me, it's like, then you have a team, teamwork. And we all spend so much, whether you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, or you're working with a team at a company, no matter what it is, if that team spirit is not there, eventually people are going to bail, because, and we spend so much time at work. All of us spend so much time at work in some format. Some people are working 3 jobs, it doesn't, everybody's got a different thing, or freelancing. Even if you're a temp or freelancing, good luck, because there's all those new laws going on with independent contractors. But if even the people you're working with, your clients, if you do not have that caring and everything you're talking about, it's really, the caring part's important. You're not going to keep your clients without the caring. You're not going to keep your staff without that. But the consistency, to me, I think that is really important, because consistency in a company, you can always change in a company. I know we do it all the time. It's our industry, but there's things that don't change. Our clients always get more than what they sign up for, to accommodate those changes and to make sure that they're happy. That's the kind of thing. I think consistency has to happen in a business. Or then if someone's consistently being rude, then to get rid of them or leave. Yeah. Right?
Exactly. And words and deeds match. So if I say I'm going to do something, like you said, so consistency and commitment usually go hand in hand. Yeah. So if I've told you that I will do something, then I make a commitment. So I'm consistent in what I deliver, but then I have to make a commitment. And even when it's difficult, you still have to show up. When my kids were little, they wanted to get, and I might have told you this story, they wanted to get a special game, and I said, I think it was $60 or something, and I said, absolutely not, that's not part of the budget. So, but I went and, this is when we lived up in Canada, I went and bought them shovels, which probably cost more than $60, but they had to earn the money. And they went out on the street and shoveled. And so I wanted to show them that if they wanted to get something, they had to make a commitment, and they had to go out every day. They had to do it consistently in order to get that money together. And it was a lesson in trust. It was like what your mother was teaching you. When you said that this is what I'm going to do, she held you to it. And those are the lessons that build character and help people be the kind of people that others trust. And I think it starts with not giving your child everything they ask for. And I think it goes with expecting, like, what does trust mean to you? And I think people need to understand that. Like, when I ask that question, what does trust mean to you? I get a lot of different answers. And so the
comfort
model is, sorry, what's that?
It's comfort. Trust is part of a comfort zone, isn't it? When you're in a work environment or a home environment and you can trust something, then it allows you to breathe and be comfortable.
Yeah.
To me.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. It allows you to just relax. You're not constantly having to watch your back.
Exactly. So then you're out of that fight or flight mode,
Yeah.
And that's where you can be more productive, and I have to say, Nancy always gave me 3 chances to rectify. And so when she did come at me with the water, that she warned me, and she was very consistent about it.
She just didn't believe me.
Very consistent about that. And I think, as parents or, anyone in management positions, you've got to follow through on the not so fun things like that. Though it actually was really
that
funny.
was being consistent. I told you exactly what I was going to do, and I told you exactly when and why, and there it was. You made the choice, not me.
There you go.
Well, because I did find myself in the corner that I said I was going to do it, and it was like a way to, possible. It wasn't like a fire hose or anything. It just was a garden hose with a little spray of water. It wasn't big,
No.
but it was enough.
But that'd get you out of bed. Wow.
But when you think about it, that's the consistency. You know, it's like if you go to something's going on at work, and maybe there is, you know, it could in the sexual harassment that goes on at work. You talk about that in your book too. Trust me, sexual harassment. I've been in those positions at work too. And if you don't have a trust of your leader, then you're going to deal with that, or you're going to walk away, and you could be the star employee that's actually the one bringing the money in, or making sure that quality control is happening, or whatever it is. If you don't have that trust, I mean, I walked out of a job when we first got back to this country because the head chef he tried to kiss me and kept trying to grope me in the kitchen, and I turned around and quit because I couldn't handle it, because I didn't trust myself to not turn around and let him have it. You know what I mean? And in that, tell him where to go.
There's frying pans and sharp knives in the kitchen. The guy was not that bright.
Dangerous place.
Yeah, you know, because eventually I'm just going to tell him, you know, talk about A in the hole. I was going to say far more, you know, do far worse to him. So I just walked away. But if I trusted my boss, who was the owner of the company, it would have been rectified. And when I quit, she said, "I wish you had trusted me enough to tell me." And I've never forgot that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You know, there was a group of us talking about trust and organizations and culture within companies, and I had made the comment that culture. If you want to see what the true culture of a company is, look at what they will tolerate, not what they say it is, not what they say on a nice shiny board, and you know, you'll see these the vision and the mission etched in stone. And I want to see what they will tolerate. And so with some of the companies that I've seen at times is that they will tolerate someone who treats the staff really horribly, if they feel that that person brings value to them, not recognizing that by doing it, it sets a huge precedent for what the culture is. So with that chef in the kitchen, if you would have said something to them and they would have disciplined him, then you would have known that the culture is one that takes how you're treated very seriously. But if they did nothing, then the culture is one of, you know, harassment.
Move on. Yeah. But it's you know, we lived in Africa for so long, and then when we came back to the States and talk about culture changes and watching how different things work on, you know, basically halfway around the world, I think if we had been in the States a little bit longer, maybe Lisa would have handled it a little bit more differently in that maybe having the confidence to go to the boss and say, hey, this is happening. But I think because we were so freshly back in the country that we were both kind of got to keep these jobs and work our way back up now. And there, you know, so we had it was just 19. Like
it was
we
19.
We had to really rebuild the way we thought about things.
But I did quit. Yeah. And he was the big star of the place.
Yeah,
he was. Everybody bowed down to him, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't bow down to someone like that. I won't, no matter how bad things are. I won't. I just won't do it. I'm already getting all like hyper on it now. But it's true. But it happens in every work scenario. This kind of thing happens, and you have to be able to trust someone somewhere. Eventually, people look at, you know, what's going on now with the Me Too movement. Eventually it comes out.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think that's where work cultures have to kind of change a little bit. And I think that's what's so important with what you do, Lee, is when you look at Me Too movements and you look at discrimination, because it's still happening, you are that glue that goes in and teaches people, you know, before they do anything bad.
Yes,
how to have a voice.
It's encouraging because I also work with companies that I would say are high trust companies. And so I see the way the top leaders, and I'm saying top as trusted leaders, the best leaders, how they treat people and how they respond to people. Health and safety is a really interesting area because I see that the best companies don't just talk about it as something that's abstract. They get into the organization and they talk to the people and they tell them how much they care about them and why they've got the safety regulations. Mm-hmm. And so I see trust playing out in the really good companies in a way that puts all of them together. They say, the reason we have these are consistent rules. They're not just for you, they're for everybody. It's because we want you to go home to your families tonight.
Mm-hmm. And also on the other side is what we're finding out as, consumers, there's companies that, do you trust this company? Do we trust Facebook with our data? You know what I mean? So, but and the first thing you do is start to look at who are the people behind those companies that you're purchasing.
Yes.
Whether it's a service or a product, you start to look into who's behind it. And then if their, rates are sky high and you see Joe Schmo flying around with a big cigar in his fancy little jet, and you're wondering, why are you doing this over here? And you thought something was shady. Now you're going to go, that's shady. And maybe it wasn't. Maybe he deserves that. I don't know. But I'm just saying, the actions don't just, if it's unsettling to the staff, it's going to be unsettling to the consumer.
Yeah. Yeah. And my experience has been that trust isn't lost in big action. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there's these horrendous things that happen, but it's usually a bunch of, what is the saying that death by 1,000 cuts?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I see trust is destroyed the same way by, 1,000 small things that are just, they build up and build up and build up over time until eventually it's enough to sell a company or an individual.
Yeah, it's true. When you're in a relationship, you like, I know that just, there's this, you say, hey, this isn't working for me on this part, and we need to have a better communication, or this hurts my feelings, or this isn't working for me. And whatever it is, have that communication and then do it in a caring way, right? But if it gets ignored and it doesn't get changed and it gets ignored and then it's another piece of pain and another piece of pain or whatever it is, eventually the person's going to get up and walk out of that relationship. And half of the time, I always notice this, there's a big jaw drop of like, what happened? You've been notified so many times, like Nancy notified me 3 times. I'm going to do this. And that, so there's that. And I feel like sometimes people turn the switch off of those warnings. Like they say, if you don't pay your bill in so many days, the lights will go out. And then they do. And you wonder why.
Even with the traveling too, like with the places you've been to, I remember some of the places that we traveled, and my favorite places weren't the big splashy places. I remember traveling in, I think it was was it the Bahamas? Anyways, it was the place that you walked in and they greeted you and said, "Oh, come on in. What can we get for you?" And they had genuine conversations, and the tables were Formica tabletops and, mismatched chairs, and the food was good, but nothing extravagant, but they showed such deep caring. And those are the things that I trust. Those are the memories that I trust and the businesses that I trust. And the ones that you walked in where they might have served you an okay meal, but it was without any kind of connection, that you thought, like they just don't care enough about the people.
Yeah.
How can I, it's not a business that I would refer because I don't trust them to give consistent service to somebody else.
It's not an experience. I look at things should be an experience with, each, conversation should be an experience. Everything we do should be some experience, whether it's a 5-second experience to hours, whatever it is, it's an experience that you share, even in any transaction, it's a sharing experience.
Exactly. And with your, I love you and Nancy doing this kind of trust exploration across the country. So I'm excited. Like, what are some of the trust explorations that you see?
Yeah, this is going to be fun because, I mean, we just started on this mission with you, and we're starting to, put up our photo journal book that comes out in March of just 2019. But as we're doing all this, we realize we've been through, since we started our tour in 2012, 150 something parks, Nancy?
Yeah.
A lot of communities, and we're slow about it because we dig in deep in some places, it's like on the way, depending on the size and all of that. But there's always a story that makes you think about, wow, like, look what this person did. What odds did they go to achieve something? How did they get people to work with them? That's what's really interesting to me about the trust, is how do people get people to say, okay, hey, we're going to go across the country and, claim some land in Kansas. You're going to trust me on the expedition, or you're going to trust yourself? You know what I mean? So I think the trust part is very big on that. Like, are you going to trust me to be your leader in the military? Are you going to, how do you build that? Not by belittling, right? It's that build up and recognize people's attributes. Nancy's thing about trust, go on a picnic with us, Lee. When we get to your area, go on a picnic with us. And her trust is, we sit at a picnic table, be quiet, and let the birds come down enough so that they trust that you're not going to. She will sit and earn the animal's trust. Isn't that right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Instead of being charged, she's learned to have the animal's trust.
Well, I've learned now. So instead of me going to them and because being just too eager to get close, now I've learned to stand back and just be calm, take my time, and they will come over. They're just as curious. So I know to just wait, and we do it all the time, and it's really kind of interesting how close they will come. And trust that we're not going to run after them. So, and I will say this: the cameras being black that look like firearms, it also makes it more difficult to photograph. If you use a camera that isn't black, if you can get one of those, and there's actions that when you go to photograph an animal, you can not look like you're going to shoot them.
Wow. And so they've got that learned response that they know to be aware.
Absolutely. Elbows go up, so there goes the animal. So you just don't put your elbows up.
You're pointing at them. You can get telephoto lenses now that are white, and zoom lenses that are white.
Yeah, it's so much easier.
Which is really nice. And Nancy and I, when we go on a walk, if I don't take, my bigger camera, I'll be like, take that extra step. And as you go to take that extra step now in life, you go take the extra step for the, to achieve your goal. But with animals, it's don't take the extra step. And every time I take that step,
I'm like, I can see it happening.
We know it. It's like we already, and we just, Nancy and I don't even have to say anything. We just know it. It's like, there's the extra step. The bird flew away. You didn't get your photo. Then you lost that experience of just being still to observe and connect with each other. So it goes back to your communication. But it's
a good metaphor for life.
I've learned a lot by being in the bush or in nature with Nancy. Just, it's like patience. And I think trust is about patience too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. You can build it. I mean, there's times in life when it's built very quickly. When we had 9/11 happen, trust actually happened very quickly because people had to depend on themselves so deeply that for a period of time, if you traveled in New York, there was this trust that actually existed on the street that I had never seen before. I had to fly into New York to do business, and it was, I think, January of the following year. So it was still, everything was still raw and fresh. And I had never experienced New York like that, where strangers were coming out and helping you find places. I had a suitcase, and I was, like the dreaded tourist walking with a suitcase down a crowded sidewalk in New York. And instead of having, normally you would get sworn at, people were actually coming up to me and saying, "Can I help you? You look like you're lost."
Wow.
And there was a deep level of trust, but it was that people coming to you and helping you, because there was a stillness, and I don't know if I'm explaining it very
No, I know
well.
what you mean.
But it's those moments when we have to rely on each other that you really get to judge whether or not people are going to extend trust.
It's like the raft going back on the Grand Canyon, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to, that dude over there smells. I don't like him, but then I'm going to have to trust him and be nice to get through this, because we might capsize, and he's going to have to trust me, and I'm going to have to trust him, Yeah. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? It's really, really true. I think one of the most interesting examples of trust is that we all get in some kind of car or vehicle every day, and we have to trust. It's obviously
the other
broken a
drivers.
lot. Yeah, you get in an airplane, a bus, a train, whatever, and you have to trust. I mean, life is trust, that you trust that you walk out the door, that it's going to be a beautiful day, even if something goes wrong, and you have to trust that you're going to get through it. You get on the car, in the car, and you start driving, you're like, dude, I'm trusting that no one's going to crash into me today. Just saying that, to me, that's one of the greatest things. Transportation, that's a trust issue, because you have to have some semblance of that when you get out there.
Yeah, I think everything we do involves trust. And if you can't, eating a meal, you trust that you're not going to get food poisoning unless you are.
Nice. I know. Go in the water and hope Jaws doesn't come get you. So on that note,
exactly.
Well, I think it's more. There's another way of looking at it. It's like trusting something bad won't happen, but on the flip side of that would be trusting yourself to know enough of what could happen. Should something happen, you have a plan of action.
You can take care of yourself. Yeah. Yep.
Everyone. Lee's book is Trust Me, Restore Belief and Confidence in an Uncertain World. See, just goes back to that traffic and Jaws and food poisoning. I think we have
on a high note. Yay!
No, I know. No, really. Actually, no, really. Go check it out. And of course, her article will be featured in the spring issue of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. Also see it up on blendradioandtv.com. She's up in our expert department there. So exciting. I know the next time we chat, we're going to have some trust stories for you from the road. We're going to be off traveling around. We're going from the high desert of Joshua Tree up to the sequoias, and we'll see if we can sit at a picnic bench or wherever we end up in the wilderness, and see if we can trust ourselves to sit still enough as a bear walks by. How about that? That's the cool thing.
Okay.
I know. There's bears out there, and we can't wait. Hopefully you see them. Everybody, again, Lee's website is leabrovedani.com. That's LEA BROVEDANI, LeaBrovedani.com. And of course, you can follow our trust stories. Go to nationalparktraveling.com or loveyourparkstore.com, and you'll see our interactive maps there. And you can see Lee's map with Juan Bautista de Anza. I know, I wish I could meet him, but I'll have to use a psychic medium for that. But everyone, keep up that's on bigblendradio.com. Our segments air Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and Sundays. We always love to play music for you, our wonderful guests, and also our wonderful listeners. And today's song is called Reach for Me. See? Trust. And it's about from Gina Zavalis, and you can keep up with her at ginazavalis.com. So here it is, Reach for Me. Thanks so much, Lee, for joining us.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Lisa.
All the leaves have fallen, and you can bet they know the world can be discouraging and cold. And heaven knows you've been there too. But don't forget what I promised you. When you're feeling all alone, I'm never far away, close enough to give at the end of the day, you know where I'll be. Reach for me. When we're separated by walls or even miles, carry on believing all the while. We'll make it through whatever comes, 'cause our two hearts, they beat as one. When you're feeling all alone, I'm never far away, close enough to give you what you need. So spread your wings, you don't have to be afraid, 'cause at the end of the day, you know where I'll be. Reach for me. I'll be there in your darkest hour of the night. Reach for me when you can't see the light. If there's any place, I swear I'll always be. It's right here.